Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for another true crime video. I hope you are all having a great day. Today, we are continuing the discussion around Dan Markel and the Adelson family. Quite frankly, because this case is incredibly convoluted. And if I said everything I wanted to in a single video, it would be hours and hours long. Not to mention that this case is still ongoing. While the wheels of justice have begun to turn, they still have not reached their final destination. As I discussed in my previous video, while I believe that Wendi Adelson is involved in the conspiracy to have her ex-husband Dan Markel killed, at this point, if there was enough solid evidence, she would have already been arrested. So while they haven't officially stated this, I do think it's safe to say that the prosecution is still working on their case against Wendi Adelson and perhaps her father, Harvey Adelson, as well. So for today's video, we will be discussing where this case is as of today, as well as the possible avenues that may lead to some additional arrests and hopefully more convictions. So let's go ahead and get into it. Two men and the conduit in the hitman conspiracy were convicted for the murder of Dan Markel, but the Adelson family dominoes continued to stand. That would change when Charlie Adelson was arrested and charged for his role in the murder plot. As the evidence stacked against him, the first domino would fall in the 3 hours it took for a jury to find him guilty on all charges, including first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation of murder. The matriarch of the family, 74-year-old Donna Adelson, was the next domino to fall. A week after Charlie Adelson's conviction, Donna was captured at the Miami airport with her husband Harvey and one-way tickets to Vietnam. Her arrest came just days after Donna was heard on recorded jailhouse calls discussing her search for countries without extradition.
We've been looking it up over and over because things change if there is extradition from Vietnam. Because we've looked at all the places. I mean, I could go to Korea and China, but there's no extradition. But we're looking for places where there's no extradition.
Now, unfortunately for Donna, she is not the brightest crayon in the box because they also secured urgent emergency visas, and the fact that they purchased one-way tickets when they clearly have the funds to purchase round trip shows that she likely had no intention of ever returning. Her defense filed a request to prevent the prosecution from arguing that her attempt to flee was a consciousness of guilt. After hearing all of the details, presiding Judge Everett denied their motion, allowing this evidence to be presented to the jury. Donna's initial trial was scheduled for September of 2024, but on the first day of jury selection, a clear conflict of interest arose while Donna Adelson was being represented by Daniel Rashbaum, the same attorney that represented Charlie Adelson in his trial. This conflict of interest would have caused obvious issues during a cross-examination of Charlie in the event that he was called to the stand, which the prosecution highly anticipated. Initially, Rashbaum claimed that both Charlie and Donna waived the conflict of interest. However, Charlie Adelson's appellate legal team insisted that Rashbaum or his defense team should be disqualified from cross-examining Charlie, suggesting that the privileged information shared could compromise the fairness of the trial, not to mention could jeopardize Charlie's case in the event of an appeal. While Donna Adelson declared her intent to retain Daniel Rashbaum, waiving any claims of a conflict of interest that might complicate her defense, Rashbaum ultimately resigned, leaving Alex Morris as the new lead lawyer for Donna's defense team. Now, Donna was so heartbroken when Rashbaum resigned that she actually started crying during her hearing. Now, personally, I think that Rashbaum became too involved and too close to the Adelsons, and his relationship with them really clouded his judgment, because I don't know how he thought representing two parties of the same case, especially considering he lost the first one, was a good idea. it wouldn't have benefited Donna, Charlie, nor do I think it would have benefited Rashbaum. And quite frankly, I don't know what Donna was thinking by retaining the same attorney that just lost his case with her son and would likely use that same losing defense in her trial. I don't know how she thought that was a good idea. But then again, as we've seen, Donna Adelson doesn't really make the greatest decisions. Thus, that's probably how she ended up where she is. Now, according to the statements made by Donna's new lead attorney, Alex Morris, he's suggested that Rashbaum's resignation has opened up pathways to exploring different defenses that may not have been previously available, further suggesting that negotiations with the prosecution are now possible. And this is where things are going to get very interesting. As a recap, Charlie Adelson's defense was essentially that the hitmen, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, killed Dan Markel on their own accord and then decided to extort Charlie Adelson for the money. And this would explain why Charlie Adelson gave them the money. Now, even on the surface, this defense is just ridiculous. Why would these two men go kill the man who happens to be the enemy of your family to then extort Charlie Adelson? Why wouldn't they just go directly to the source, threaten his life, and extort him without having to kill anybody? But the state destroyed this defense even further with a number of wiretapped phone calls, text messages, emails, and witnesses such as Katie McBanua, the conduit, who testified that this entire conspiracy plot was Charlie Adelson's idea. Not to mention the number of people that he brought up the hitman joke to. Nobody is buying that that was just a mere coincidence. Now, during his testimony in his own defense, Charlie Adelson explained that he didn't tell anybody about the extortion as he was threatened with his life and the lives of his family if he had told anyone. However, he explains that he did end up telling his mother, Donna Adelson, which would explain why Donna was the one who signed thousands of dollars worth of checks to Katie McBanua from their family business, the Adelson Institute, claiming that she was an employee, though throughout the trial, evidence proved that she never worked there. So now, as far as Donna's defense, there's a few choices. She is either going to have to go along with Charlie Adelson's story and his defense of an extortion. However, we saw that didn't really go well for him. Not to mention, she's going to have to explain why she thought it was a good idea to move her daughter, Wendi Adelson, and her grandchildren to South Florida to be closer to the men who allegedly extorted Charlie Adelson and threatened him and his family. Why would Donna Adelson think it would be a good idea to move the children closer to the killers? Clearly, that would defy any logic or reason. Now, if she doesn't go along with Charlie's defense, her defense will have to come up with an entirely different story, which will be rebutted when the prosecution decides to call Charlie Adelson to the stand. And in doing so, Donna's defense may very well be to throw her son, Charlie, under the bus, which is kind of what I gathered from Alex Morris's statement when he suggested that there was more pathways for Donna's defense that weren't possible with Rashbaum on their defense team. Now, with either of these choices, I do think that Donna Adelson will have to testify on her own behalf, as she has a lot of explaining to do with all of the phone calls, the wiretapped phone calls, the recorded jailhouse calls, the emails, not to mention her flight to Vietnam after having a conversation of looking for countries without extradition. And I don't think that Donna Adelson is going to do well on the stand. From my research in this case, Donna is a very, very controlling person. Even when she was having this conversation on the phone with the person that she thought was the extortionist, it was really an undercover cop during the bump. But the way she was talking to this extortionist, she was even trying to control him.
So I can give you the, you want, then the 5K?
Here's what
what you need to do. You need to go and...
Don't tell me what to do. I know what to do and I'm doing it.
She's sitting here telling the person she believes to be the extortionist, telling him that he needs to listen to her. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. Like, it's unreal, the level of control that this woman tries to have over people. And if she is called to the stand, she may hold her composure for the first hour or so, but I think that the prosecution will be able to grind her down quite quickly, and I don't think it is going to bode well for Donna. Now, to circumvent this entire mess, the other possibility is a plea agreement that would avoid a trial altogether. Now, there's been a lot of speculation on a plea agreement, as Alex Morris has suggested that negotiations with the state are now possible, that Rashbaum has resigned. However, I personally don't really see this happening for a couple of reasons. The state seems very confident in their conviction of Donna Adelson. Since her arrest, they seized all of her electronic devices, including her cell phone, computers, laptops, etc. And as I mentioned earlier, Donna Adelson isn't very bright. And I'm sure that there's still a lot of evidence left on her devices, not to mention the things that she deleted and are likely going to be recovered by the investigators. Additionally, the state has a lot to gain from this trial and not a lot to lose. With another trial, more evidence and more testimony is going to be presented that may lead to additional charges to alleged co-conspirators, i.e. Wendi or Harvey Adelson. Furthermore, I don't mean to be ageist, but Donna Adelson is already in her mid-70s, and just about any sentence for Donna is going to be a life sentence. That is, unless they can get Donna Adelson to flip on either Wendi or Harvey. Now, at first, I didn't really think that this could be a mere possibility, but as of right now, this family seems to be on the brink of cannibalism, particularly for Donna and Charlie. These two are behind bars paying for the death of Wendi's ex-husband, while Wendi has seemingly cut them off completely, as she's not even really communicating with them at this point. Even on the day that Charlie was found guilty and convicted, a recorded jailhouse call between Donna and Charlie was heard, where the two were obviously distraught and sounded angry with Wendi.
It was later that I found out that Wendi was actually trying to drive down the Prescott at 12:30 that day, but I know very poor explanation of that. She showed up. It was been an hour. She helped herself. The little author couldn't help herself.
So I wrote this last night. We know you never asked anything about your brother. This 8 o'clock last night. But we just got off the phone with him, and the first thing he asked was, how's Wendi holding? I didn't have the heart to tell him that you never called up or asked about it. I just said, you weren't up to phone calls right now. Everyone looks to protect you. I bet you've got a lot to think about.
Every time she says, can you do this? Can you come here? Can you do this? Everything. How many times do we have plans that I really can't and have to cancel? Wendi needs us for this. Wendi needs us to babysit. So we've been really good nannies, and I guess our job is up. Because now the boys are older, they can go out with friends, they can do things on their own. So she doesn't need grandma and grandpa. Okay, pretty hurtful. I have one son that I don't speak with. I have one son who's close to being dead. And my daughter, whom I love, is doing this? I don't get it. I don't get it. I said to Harvey, I swear to God, our family was cursed. Absolutely cursed. And I don't know how to take care of it anymore. So.
Now, I personally find this quite amusing because Donna Adelson is being eaten by the monster that she's created. In some creative writing classes, Wendi Adelson can be heard on a podcast discussing how controlling Donna truly is. Now, she wasn't being malicious in this podcast, but if you read between the lines, I can feel a sense of resentment from Wendi to her mother. And now Wendi has been playing this game better than Donna ever has. And I imagine, either subconsciously or not, Wendi at some level is enjoying living her life without being under the thumb of her controlling and overbearing mother. Wendi has reportedly moved on with her life. She has a new boyfriend. And I think it's safe to assume that Charlie and Donna, perhaps both, are feeling quite resentful of Wendi as she is sipping Mai Tais at the beach while they are sitting behind bars. And as Charlie Adelson has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and now Donna Adelson faces that same fate, it's very possible that one of them cut their loyalty to their family and put their own survival first. While Wendi appears to be guilty in the court of public opinion, what you know and what you can prove in the court of law are two very different things. Now, some suggest that the Adelsons are not very smart. However, when it comes to Wendi, at least she's smart enough to stop talking. Whereas Charlie Adelson was heard on a recorded line saying, "You can get away with murder as long as you keep your mouth shut." It was actually Wendi and perhaps Harvey who heeded this advice, but that doesn't mean they're out of the woods. Like I mentioned earlier, if a plea agreement is not reached for Donna Adelson, the prosecution will have another round of witnesses, testimonies, and evidence that are presented that may lead back to Wendi and Harvey, or perhaps both. After Donna's arrest, all of her electronics were seized, and during previous trials, Wendi stated that Donna and Harvey often used joint accounts and likely used the same computers. So it's possible that during the search of these devices, the evidence found could implicate Harvey Adelson. We also anticipate that Wendi will be called to the stand to testify for the state, as she has in previous trials. As more conversations between Wendi and her parents come to light, both Wendi and Donna are going to have to explain these away, potentially catching them in additional lies. Now, although Wendi has derivative use immunity, which essentially means that anything she says on the stand cannot be used against her, that immunity deal can be breached if she is caught perjuring herself on the stand. And if she is in fact lying about her involvement or knowledge, she's bound to slip up somewhere. And this is where I wanted to mention that, as far as I understand it, in the state of Florida, if you are caught lying on the stand during a capital murder case, such as this one, you can be imprisoned by up to 30 years. So if Wendi isn't ever charged with murder, there's also possibilities that she could be charged with something else. Now, lastly, the other pathways to charge Wendi or Harvey and or both is if Charlie Adelson or Donna Adelson decide to flip. Now, if anybody, I would put my money on Charlie Adelson, as he's now a father himself. He is missing out on his son's life. And as tensions are growing between these seemingly estranged siblings, Charlie Adelson may have lost his will to protect his little sister, Wendi. Now, of course, all of this is just speculation until we approach Donna Adelson's trial, which has now been rescheduled from somewhere between the end of 2024 or perhaps the beginning of 2025. So until then, that's all I have for now. Be sure to let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Make sure you like this video before you go, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.